Her name was Gail James, who apparently celebrating her 85th birthday this week, which is crazy.
Shout out Gail.
Happy birthday, Miss Gail.
If you're watching this, make sure to like and subscribe.
She's not watching this. I promise you, she's not watching this. And when she sees me with long hair and tattoos, she's gonna.
Oh, Gail.
Anyways. Welcome back to Together Talks podcast. My name is Joshua Pugh. I'm here with Hagen Harrison, Monroeville's very own, joined on the AV by the Philip Bradley Smith, the CEO and owner of Brad Smith Media, hailing from Columbus, Georgia.
That's right.
Brad.
Shout out to
Brad.
Thank you guys.
And today, we are joined by our good friend, Miss Lindsey Sanford from the Springs Church of Collins,
That's right.
Columbia,
Yes.
Sumrall,
Soon to be everywhere
New
else.
York, Los Angeles, Phoenix. Lindsey is it student pastor?
Student pastor.
At the Springs Church. She is an alumni of the Highlands College.
True.
Yes,
shout out,
baby.
Shout out to Highlands
Highlands
College.
alum.
Hagen is also a fellow Highlands College alum. We are so excited to have her in today. So excited to have you.
It's an
today.
honor to be here. It really
I don't
is.
know that it is, but
It is. What?
we're very glad
Wow.
that you were here. We're excited.
Yeah,
we're
for real.
excited.
You want me to take it?
You take it, my
I'm gonna
man.
take
You
it. Yeah,
steer this
we
ship.
are super pumped to have you. You are over the student ministry at the Springs. Who's been a real integral part of Together this past year, and you've kind of stepped up and joined the Together leadership team, and we're pumped about that. But just like any guest we have on here, I'm just curious about everybody's church background, just as far as different denominations and what they grew up in and what that was like. So I am interested in what your church background was like growing up, and like what denominations were you part of, and how did all of that kind of turn you into the person that you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually grew up Independent Baptist.
Ooh,
okay.
What is that?
No,
Oh,
it's
bro.
like it's like Southern
really?
Baptist, but we like do what we
deep.
want because we independent.
That's right.
But,
That's right.
So
Okay.
I grew up in a really small Independent Baptist church, and this pastor or church, like in particular, whatever, like really loved to zoom in on like hell and why we deserve it, and how
Wow.
we're not a good Christian all the
Why
time.
you deserve
and
it.
Yeah, like it was just
Really?
all this. It was
Wow.
very like going in and out of church. It was very heavy. Like you always just went in feeling bad, went out feeling bad.
Sounds
So
like a good time.
yeah, it was like, so good. So
Wait
when
to go to church.
yeah, Independent Baptist. No, but so when I was like probably 7, I pulled out my get out of hell free card and made a profession of faith, because literally it was just
That's
like we
what's up.
talked about that, so like he just emphasized hell so much.
Yeah.
And then the last 3 minutes of the sermon would be, this is how you don't go to hell. So I was like, bet I'm gonna take that road. But nothing really like changed in my life, you know. It was kind of
Yeah.
just like, I don't want to go there, so this is what I'm gonna do. And then probably when I was like 11 or 12, drama hit the church. So a lot of people decided to kind of leave and find something else. So my parents being one of those people that decided to go looking for something else. And it was really weird. As we were looking for other churches, my parents, even though we were kind of like miserable going to that church, they still kind of gravitated towards that kind of religious vibe, which was weird because they never enjoyed it. So for probably like a year, we were just kind of church hopping, looking for a home. And then my older sister got invited to the Springs Church, the youth group there. And youth group was like foreign to us, right? Because we did like Sunday school, and then that was kind of like it. So we were super intrigued by that. Every time she would come home from there, though, she loved it, which was weird. We never talked about loving church, you know? So my parents were like, you know what? We gotta try this out. And we went, and when I say, I feel like culture shock is like an understatement. Like you walk in and it's like, these are people that enjoy the presence of God. These are people that worship God and talk about the mercy of God and not just, you know, the bad things. So that was life-changing. And, you know, it's this life-giving message of like how to walk in freedom, or, you know, just it was different. And so I got heavily involved in the middle school ministry because I was probably about 12. And then I got heavily involved in the high school ministry, and I really never left youth group since at the Springs.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So you've essentially been at the Springs then since you were 12. Dang, and you're how old now?
I'm 22.
22, so about 10 years. It's pretty
Yes,
good.
sir.
Which, were you there when you did your Highlands College? Or did you take those 2 years?
I did take those 2 years and moved to Birmingham, so I was gone for 2 years.
Yeah, because you did the full, like the full-time program.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that brings me to my next question then. You are a graduate of Highlands College. How has that, like, college experience helped you in your leadership as far as, like, leading a student ministry?
Oh my gosh. So Highlands
that's
College,
kind of a loaded
you
question.
didn't know. So you did the evening program, right?
Yeah,
so
I
I
did
did the traditional, which is like I don't know how it's really different. A few classes are different. You're more,
Probably, yeah.
more involved. I don't know, but so it's really like they set it up in such a safe way to fail. So they don't just teach you, hey, this is how to run a student ministry. They say, hey, go run a student ministry and we'll learn from there. So probably like my second semester, end of my second semester, going into my third, I actually had the opportunity to take over the city group I was at, which is essentially youth group. So little 18, 19-year-old Lindsey is already a youth pastor now, but under so much leadership where I'm not learning just, I guess, theology, but how to make an atmosphere that students want to be in, how to deal with conflict, how to connect with parents, because that's a huge thing in student ministry. So really just the experience of actually doing it, but also like the relationships. Like I still talk to my student team that I met in Highlands College of like, hey, I'm failing, help me,
Yeah.
So it was amazing.
Yeah.
They helped me so much.
Yeah, my experience there was like, since I did the evening program, it was just on Tuesday nights, and we go from like 6 to 9, I think it was. And we do see it changed like in about every semester, the structure of it.
Oh,
I don't know
absolutely.
if that was
Yeah,
how it
no,
was for
yeah.
you right too.
Yeah.
But like, so my first year there, it's pretty much, there's like the worship practicum, the student practicum, the pastoral leadership practicum. It's like pick the one and that's where you're going to go. So obviously I did students, and I'd get there and like the first hour to hour and a half, I'd go in like the student, it's not called workshop. Do you remember what it's called?
Yeah, practicum.
Practicum.
Yeah.
Did I just say that? Practicum? I don't know.
You did just say
I
that,
did,
but
but
you
I may have just
thinking
lost it.
something else?
I don't know. But I spent like an hour and a half, and it was like all the people who were interested in students, and then it was like, this is how you do student ministry, this is what it's like, and then we'd break, and then we'd have like class time. Well, my second year there, it was essentially the same thing, except I learned from every practicum. Was it like that?
Dang,
Yeah. It's
no.
like, it was kind of like I'd go and do the same thing that I did the first semester, but instead of learning about students all semester, like 1 week would be, this is how you do student ministry. Next week is like, this is what worship looks like. Next week was like,
That's sick.
Yeah.
We really didn't get that. But I mean, like, if you don't put yourself in a box, Highlands College won't either. So it's like, even though I was in student practicum, if I wanted to learn about worship, I could have. But
Yeah.
that's sick, though. I didn't know they did that.
I thought it was real beneficial just because I kind of got, my first semester I was like fully in on students, and my second semester was like, this is kind of a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
which I thought was really cool.
Did you get involved with the worship practicum, Penny?
No.
Did you sing in front of people? Show them the pipes?
I mean, I do have some mad pipes. Let's be real here.
If y'all don't know this, Hagen will remind you like every 10 minutes that he's got pipes.
Okay, that's
and
not true.
That's
I
Prove
said
it,
one
prove it, or
time
it's fake.
that I have pipes, and since then, everybody just acts like I say that all the time.
he does. He
I've heard
absolutely
both
does.
of you guys just sing a little tune, maybe just not even realizing I was there, and I'm
See,
been
valid.
impressed.
Okay,
Valid.
I gotta say this.
Both
We got Brad's
Like an
approval.
hour ago, I was singing some worship song. I was singing harmony, and Brad was like, "Dang man, that harmony sounds dope." I went to do it again, and flopped. Like absolutely flopped. It sounded terrible.
You can't
I was
do it,
just
like, on the
Never
spot.
mind,
Yeah.
we're done.
Can you sing it?
No, I do more of a holler, but I guess it's
holler.
joyful
Oh,
noise.
yeah.
Do you want to sing
That was
right now
I think
on
I'm
the
good,
podcast?
actually.
Okay. all right.
Yeah. Thank
You're
you, though,
gonna be
for
our
the
first-
opportunity.
Our first musical guest.
Yeah, that was our shot to get like the first 30 seconds
Yeah.
for the video. That was gonna be our clip, our clickbait clip or whatever.
Cut
that.
No.
No, but I do want to ask, because so there's not a lot of like women in leadership roles in ministry, and that's kind of a topic that's talked about in church some, and like certain people agree with it, some people don't agree. There's all this like a lot of misinterpretations about it. There's a lot of specific feelings about it, and so I am curious, and I do want to ask you, like, what is it like being a young woman in not just like a leadership role, but a student pastor role? Like you were like pastor of student ministry. Like what is that like as a woman?
Yeah, so I actually like love this question, but so I was hired on as ministry coordinator at the Springs Church. So I like get to oversee and walk with all the ministries. And right now I'm like temporarily getting to wear the youth pastor hat. So thankfully I haven't like ran into anybody at the spring that's been like, you know, like I don't believe in women in ministry or anything like that. I definitely think people were uncomfortable at first just because they haven't really seen it at the capacity that I get to do it right now, which is like such a cool thing to get to like pave that way for other young girls to do it. But I think God has let me see a lot of like how he's using me as like a woman, because honestly, walking into the youth pastor role specifically, I really didn't feel like my ministry could start until I like found a man and was married. So I went into that role super insecure and kind of falling under that small town trap of like my life gets started when I get married. So overcoming that, God has really showed me other girls coming up to me and going like, whoa girl, like you're single, you're doing this thing, like, so that's been really inspiring. And I'm not dogging men, like don't get me wrong, I want a relationship and stuff, but this is not a dogging men session. But yeah, it's been really cool to see a lot of I guess like some of our younger girls really step into youth here recently, and just kind of put hands in the game and stuff like that. So it's really been an honor. That's
really cool too. Like, would you say that being a woman in a student pastor's role, you've been able to have more like authority in some of those young girls' lives and
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's definitely difficult because you can't really, there's such a fine line of like not getting too close to like a guy student or even for y'all like a girl student. So it is hard not having a guy in the room right now, but even being able to kind of see the guys tune into of like they respect me, they're listening. So it's been really cool. Cool.
That is cool too. And I kind of agree, or not. Well, yeah, I do agree, but I guess empathize with you on the fact of like being in a ministry role as a single person, because you do kind of have that thought of like, I remember growing up, which I didn't go to church growing up, but when I did get saved and went to church, it was like, if you're going to be a student pastor, like you need to find like a pastor's wife, or like you need to have a person that does it with you. And so coming here 3 years ago, you know, I didn't have that. And so there was that mental aspect of like, am I really going to be as authoritative or as influential as somebody else would who would be married or whatever? But so I totally feel you on that. But
and also it's like I would not be able to get to do what I do without like Pastor Wes has my back in so much stuff. Like he absolutely believes in me and pours into me, and even like having the relationship I have with you guys, like I feel like I was able to go into the youth pastor position so much more confident knowing you guys were right across the street for me to go help me. So that's been super beneficial.
Yeah, and I like it.
And I'll just say this too, I think that the role that women have in ministry is so crucial now more than it's ever been. Even when I was growing up, I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, and there was a single woman. Well, she was widowed, so not single by choice, but her name was Gail James, who apparently celebrating her 85th birthday this week, which is crazy.
Shout out Gail.
Happy birthday, Miss Gail.
If you're watching this, make sure to like and subscribe.
She's not watching this. I promise you, she's not watching this. And when she sees me with long hair and tattoos, she's gonna.
Oh, Gail.
Anyways, but I'll say, growing up, she was my Bible drills teacher for years, which I'm obviously not involved in Bible drills anymore. But to have a woman pour into me and minister so much of learning how to read the Bible and learning how to apply the Bible is a role that I don't think she could have held 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because of the stigma around it and the taboo-ness of it. So I think it's crucial, and we celebrate and applaud what you're doing.
Thank you.
I'll say, I want to just add to basically what everyone's kind of mentioned here. I've had a family member, an aunt of mine, who's been a missionary in Mexico for, years now. And I mean, this lady can preach. And she is just like you said, the most influential person that a lot of people will ever experience in their life. And, you know, she's just been doing what God called her to do for the last 40 plus years. And so I commend you for that, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Brad.
Yes, I agree. And, you know, also just to add on, which I know I've kind of started that, but if you think about it, I think statistically there are more women in church than there are men. For last I heard. So men hold the vast majority of the leadership roles. And so I just, again, we commend you for what you're doing. I think it's super awesome. I think it's super, cool what you're doing. We get to keep up with you a lot on like social media and even just texting and a lot of the stuff together related. So we believe in you and what you're doing over there. And
oh, guys.
Yeah, let's go.
That would be the moment. We missed it.
I'm like tearing up. And
Making not Photoshop, but we'll add in some visual effects.
Yeah. Let the confetti rain right here.
But just, I guess, kind of going off the Together thing, since this is like a Together podcast, I am curious. We asked Cade the same thing last month or our last episode. What made you want to be a part of Together last year? And like, what was that experience like for you?
Well, coming in last year, I was only back home, like moving back to Mississippi for just a couple months. And so I kind of walked into the Springs already having such a great relationship with Agape. Like Pastor James takes time to come and speak at our house, same with Pastor Wes. And so it really anything that I was able to come and I guess support here, I absolutely believed in because of their relationship. And so I didn't really know what to expect coming in, but now getting to hear more and be more involved. I heard this message like a couple weeks ago, and I could not help but think of like Together and just what y'all are doing. But this guy was talking about the meal that matters and how like churches do everything around food, right? Like anything good that's happening, we're eating.
Did that today.
Yeah, and so even like Jesus did that, right? Like he went and ate where even like religious people would call him like a glutton and stuff, and they would always say like we don't sit with those people, like we don't eat with them. What are you doing? And he was talking about like as ministers and pastors, our job is just to set the table. We set the table. We make the atmosphere nice. We put a nutritious meal on the table for them and tools for them to eat the meal, and we make room for them and conversation for them to grow while eating the nutritious meal. But at the end of the day, we cannot help what they do with this meal. Some may consume it and some may put it into go box and take it later, or some may just play with it, whatever. But I was like, man, like if there is anybody in my life right now like making room at their table, like it's Josh and Hagen. And it's so cool because it's like another confetti popper. No. But it's like also there's there may still be people being like, yo, we don't eat with them, because I know one of y'all's goals is just to like break denominational walls, and so that's hard for people to go, let's all eat together. And you guys are just saying like, hey, that culture doesn't belong at this table, but y'all still do. And so that passion and vision and what y'all are doing is something that I cannot say no to getting behind. So vision sold me, passion sold me, so I'm excited.
Dang, go ahead. Cut. I'm trying not to get choked up.
I'll say this though, and we appreciate that, but there's been times during this process, though, that I think we've even looked at our own table and we're like, we need to make this table smaller. We need to, because we get aggravated sometimes and we're like, gosh, why is this not working? And it's like, you know what? Instead of making a big table, we'll make a small table. And if they fit, they fit. And I think as of the last couple of weeks, I hope and I believe that we've kind of ended that idea in our heads. Yeah. And sometimes it can be frustrating and sometimes it can be super draining. But like, just understanding that keeping the long table for anybody who wants to take a seat, I think will pay off more in the long run.
Absolutely. And I feel like everybody, especially I guess youth pastors, need a reminder that we're all on the same team. Like we're all like, we have the same goal, same win. Let's make heaven crowded. Let's rob hell. And I think that you forget it sometimes.
For sure.
You can tell she goes to Springs.
I tell you what, I've been to the Springs one time.
I've never been. I kind of want to go now.
You gotta go.
Gosh,
they turn up, man.
Really?
I love the Springs. I got there late, and I snuck in through the back. And when I opened the door, dude, Pastor James always uses the illustration like you'll get hype at an NFL game or a basketball game, but then you come into church and you just kind of sit and you're dead. Dog, I tell you what, I bet the people at the Springs at an NFL game or a basketball game, they're just as rowdy, dog. I love it. And I say rowdy, and I don't mean anything disrespectful by that. They're passionate people on fire for Jesus, and they do not care what anyone else thinks.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yep.
Oh.
That's pretty swag.
Fire. Bar. Shout out to the Springs, man.
Shout out to Springs. Shout out
air horns.
Crib.
The Crib.
Well, I will say that's arguably one of the nicest things I think we've been told about Together. Maybe that sounds so like bland, but I don't know. It just felt very genuine, And I don't know, I think the last month has been good for me at least, but probably a month or two before that, I was getting ready to just scrap together all together.
We were in January of 22, 4 months out from conference. We were meeting 2 offices over, and we were like, this is going to be it. This is our last one. We're done. Unity ain't happening. We're never going to see it through, and we will never do this again. And we were like, let's think on it for a week.
Yeah. And
we came back that next week just like on fire for it.
Yeah, I had like a message that I typed up that I was getting ready to send out to everybody. Just like, hey, this just ain't working, And actually, I was going through some of my notes on my phone yesterday, like just because I keep like to-do lists and stuff, and I was just going through trying to find stuff, and I found that message that I typed up, and I'm like, I'm so glad I never sent that.
Yeah.
Because we've come so far in the last probably month. I think we're really like in the process of really breaking some denominational lines with some of these guys here.
Absolutely.
And, our Together Live thing that we had scheduled this past Wednesday ended up getting canceled because of the rain or the weather. But just the fact that they were able to, finally come on board with some stuff, that we finally just got an opportunity to all do something together. And I hate it got canceled, but it just showed me that like we're making progress.
Heck yeah.
And things are happening and things are moving, and man, I'm just excited about it.
Jesus is real.
Yeah. Amen.
Retweet.
But the devil's real too.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I feel like when people, us, you guys and gals especially, y'all been working really diligently, really hard for this, and the vision, the heart, everything you put into it. The devil, he's going to do all he can, because I feel like good things are coming. Yeah. So y'all just keep on rolling.
Absolutely. And I think Highlands College says it a lot, but it's like, if you don't quit, you win. Because, think about it. The devil's probably been plotting this forever of, let me get God's people and even divide them by denomination. Mm-hmm. That's going to be my master plan. So the fact that y'all are like, we're breaking down the walls, he's probably shaking in his boots. So yeah.
And I think that's something that I had a conversation with James, like probably 2 or 3 days after me and Hagen were like, we're about to call it. And he said, Josh, I can't imagine us going to heaven, meeting God, and then when he asked what happened right here, and y'all were on the brink of it, why'd y'all quit? He said, I don't want to stand next to you. You don't want to stand next to me. He said, when that goes down, that's not somewhere we want to be. Mm-hmm. He said, and it's like you just said, we will see it through. We will see victory if we do not quit. And I want to say that since then, I've been like, this has become super easy. It's not always easy, but it's also one of those deals, like Brad just said, if it were easy, I feel like we wouldn't be doing something right. If it were easy, that would be probably Satan being like, oh, they don't care. Yeah. I'm not touching that. But now that we're getting somewhere, he's trying to murder it, like absolutely kill it. So it's not always easy, but I think that's what makes it worth it. Yeah,
or even like in Exodus somewhere. Sorry, I'm not good at like pinpointing it, but God says like I will be loyal to my love to people who love me for like thousands of generations, but I will keep responsible sons and grandsons of a father's sin. And so it's like we have to stay generationally minded, like we have to keep in mind that like what we're doing is not going to just stop when these teenagers grow up. Like the teenagers grow up and they become mom and dads, and it's like we have to fill the role of letting this be a long-lasting relationship. So I commend y'all. Y'all killing it.
I did not mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was just going to say, I had an awesome opportunity this past Sunday night to have a small group with, Generation Next. That's the name of their small group. And what it is it's pretty much people, I want to say around 60 or older, but I don't know. But they were pouring into our young adults. They asked, hey, can we have a small group with y'all? We just want to pour into y'all. And I was like, absolutely. One thing that I got the opportunity to tell them is, we've seen, for my generation, we always got told at conferences and church camps and D-Nows and all this other stuff, they're like, y'all's generation, y'all's is the one to change everything. And I've graduated from high school 4 years ago, and I'm like, I'm looking at my generation. Like, I'm going to be honest. This wasn't necessarily, I don't think, was the generation to change everything amongst ourselves. But what I'm seeing is the few that remained, the people that said, like, it may not be my generation, but I can promise you that next generation is going to get every bit of our attention, every bit of our focus. we're watching that next generation, and that next generation coming up right now, they're 13 to 18-year-olds are on fire in a way I've never seen before.
Heck yeah.
And in a way that people older than me, who I've asked, I'm like, did y'all see this with my generation? And they're like, we didn't see it with your generation. We didn't see it with our generation. They're like, but we're seeing something in this generation right now that is something totally different than what we've seen before. It's like, I don't want to throw in Christianese, but it's like a fire that has started that we were like little embers, and then this is like a fire that is about to torch everything. So I don't know how we got here. I don't know what the
so glad we did.
What are you
So
doing
glad
over
we
there?
did.
I don't know. I turned my head for 5 seconds and came back and was like, revivals in the air. But I say that to say, you know,
If we don't quit, we win.
if we don't quit, we win. It may not have been our generation to take it over and run with it, but the ones of us that remain are pouring it out into the next generation, which I love to see.
That's
Love
some good
to see.
stuff. I do have a question just before because we're kind of nearing our time for both of y'all, because both of y'all have recently been to Motion House Roundtable.
Shout out to Motion House.
That's the right name of it, right?
Yes.
The Roundtable. And so I know Josh came back from that like super pumped. He kind of sent me a message talking about all the cool stuff that he'd heard and all the cool ideas. Get my script out, make sure I get my question right. But for both of y'all, like, what is like one or two things that y'all were able to take from those roundtable gatherings when it comes to like being able to bring unity to our community, and how can we be most effective in doing so? Like, what did y'all learn at those things, and what can we put into action moving forward?
Yeah, I think like what I said before, it's like we forget that we're all on the same team. So it was so life-giving for me to like, I had like oddly a lot of friends there. Like I had my old roommate from Highlands College there, and then Josh, and then I brought Shay. And so it was cool that like, first of all, I had this inner circle, but then it was like completely random youth pastors, but we're all like seeking like, teach me more, like how do I lead better, how do I dive in deeper with my students? And so like the reminder that there is like other youth pastors everywhere fighting for the next generation also was like super encouraging for me. But also one of the questions they wanted us to ask like during lunch or whatever to other youth pastors was like, what's one thing that your ministry or your church is winning at? And I was like, man, that is so good, because not only are you getting to like learn, but also like celebrate with that person, because it's like, y'all know, like you don't get to leave ministry at the church. Like ministry goes everywhere with you. Like you could be at a concert and your student calls and you need to answer that phone. And so ministry is heavy sometimes. So to get that like 1 second of like, hey, I celebrate with you with that was just like, I was like, man, like we just need to celebrate more, because good things are happening even though it gets heavy. So
That's good.
Yeah.
For sure. I think the thing that I enjoyed the most, and I wasn't even supposed to go, that literally happened like 2 days before, as I hit Lindsey up and I was like, are y'all still going? She's like, yes. And I was like, okay, I think I'm able to go. But the
That
thing,
was the funniest text ever.
I think, did I?
You said as of an hour ago, no, but now maybe. And I was like, for sure.
Yeah, things fell into place
Absolutely.
well. And I'm glad they did. I've been in rooms with student pastors, specifically student pastors that serve in the type of churches that we do attend, non-denominational, Pentecostal, charismatic churches, where the student pastor, you know, you meet him and it's this awesome dude, this really cool dude, and you're like, hey, you know, what's your student ministry like? And they're like, oh, you know, we're kind of small. We've got 700 that come every Wednesday night, and you know, we've got like 50 small groups, and I'm just like, oh yeah, we're kind of small too. It's like, how many of you guys? Like 15. I've been in those rooms, and I initially when I got there thought it was going to be like that, but it's one of those deals where when they start talking about the things that they struggle with as far as ministry goes, and the things they struggle with as far as students go, it was all the same. And I'm like, oh, so even in Laurel, Mississippi, and you being from Texas, being 8 hours away, we're struggling with like the same things, which is just further proof that the enemy's all attacking us the same way, using the same weapons, but also like the victories that we're seeing from both of those, and how to get victory for somebody who's sitting across the table who's like, I haven't gotten victory there. Where do we win? And just kind of giving a guideline. And plus, I think it was is his name Jamie?
Yes.
Something that Jamie said from Motion House. He's just developing those relationships to where when things happen, and surely enough, you know, I haven't needed somebody to lean on yet, and even within the past 2 weeks, having to hit people up and being like, okay, this is my first time dealing with this. What is y'all's approach? And just being able to get feedback from people. that live hours away, but you've met and have a genuine care for and genuine interest in. I think it's just incredible for them to make those connections. And I don't know. I was just going somewhere.
Kind of lost it.
Is this when you're telling us a Together Roundtable is coming? Is this the announcement?
Well, unofficially,
No.
officially, no, honestly.
Cut her mic.
Yeah.
Cut her mic.
So I sent the text out to the Together leadership team yesterday, like the calendar of events with just at least something once a month. And I think it was March of next year. I had like a Together leadership night on there or something. And honestly, when I was planning that, the roundtable wasn't even in my mind. But just hearing y'all talk about it, I was like, dude, it'd be so cool if that leadership meeting kind of turned into like a roundtable type thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of weird that you said that like
Interesting.
that.
Holy Spirit
good.
confirmed.
Is it weird or is it prophetic?
Yeah, maybe prophetic, gotta be.
Don't
But-
cause prophets.
Nah, honestly, I think that'd be really cool for us to do something similar.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to give much away, but
We've got stuff. We're planning stuff.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
me and Josh were looking at the like the Together schedule, and it's like we're already looking at stuff 2 years away.
Oh yeah,
It's
April
like-
of 24 is already like being talked about right now,
Yeah.
which is wild.
That's
because
so great, though.
we haven't even hit April of 22 yet.
Yeah.
Well, today we did.
Well, yeah, technically,
It's April 1st.
which is kind of wild.
Woo.
We're 28 days out.
Yeah, and I'm about to throw up just
I
thinking
know.
about it.
28 days too together.
Dude, I tell you, like Monday hit me. It was like we're a month out, and it's like I've already done a lot. I feel like just in preparation, and then it's like we're a month away, and I was like, oh my dear gosh, I have so much left to do. It's just, I feel like I've bombarded you two in that group message a lot, just like just bugging the mess out of y'all
don't
about
think
updates and
so.
stuff. But
I hate the group message.
I'd rather.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was
I'm
gonna
just
say I
kidding.
have a silly goose time in the group message.
Silly goose
Those are
time.
What
fun.
is that? Silly goose.
No, I'm just playing. There are some people in there though that I'm like, I feel like they hate this group chat. I do not hate the group chat. I love the group chat. But for the people whose phones just go
Yeah.
for like 20 minutes, I apologize, Kay Pierce. I'm so sorry. I know you're teaching in a classroom, and I apologize. That's on us, okay? Big dog, that's on us. I'm sorry. And Darren. Sorry.
Yeah, Darren's
And-
learning in a classroom.
and
That goes
Claire.
him. So-
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and Claire. Yeah, so
I'm so sorry.
So sorry for that, you guys. Shay's just got
But we
everybody
have
muted, so there's that. But
Do what?
Shay's got everybody muted.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
love how Shay somehow finds her way to get in either every podcast or roast somehow. It's like every time it's like, where's Shay? What is
Shay
Shay doing?
is eventually going to make an appearance on this podcast.
Shay.
true.
Do y'all know
Rel-
the funniest thing?
Go ahead.
So I met Shay at our leadership meeting, like our first one, and then we were like, yo, let's get coffee. And I was like, absolutely. And then I called her the next day. I was like, hey, do you still want to get coffee? She was like, yeah. I was like, what about in Louisiana? And that's when I like invited her to the round table.
What?
She was like, yes.
Nice.
That's
So,
kinda cool,
Isn't
for
that
real.
cool?
Yeah.
Smooth.
So she's a trooper. She was like,
Yeah.
heck yes. I was like, sweet.
Which
So
I think she's had some interest in Highlands College at some point, right?
she has.
Maybe that's something we can talk to her about when she
If you're
comes on.
listening, go to Highlands College.
Yeah.
Shout out. Shout out to Highlands College.
This is your
Hey,
sign.
she's
This
legit.
is, yeah.
We are kind of running low on time though. Do just want to say thank you for coming on,
Absolutely.
being here for episode 3.
Thank you for
It's
having
been a-
me.
Been a good time.
Of course.
But do you have any closing thoughts or anything?
I've got to
any
give a
ideas or
shout out.
anything?
I got to give a shout out, which is a shocker. I know I don't normally do this.
We never do shout outs.
I never do shout outs. But shout out to Miss Gayla from the Ruby's Home Furnishings, who has watched both episodes
No.
Wow.
of our podcast.
Wait,
Confetti
who is this?
popper, where is it?
Miss Gayla, I work with her. at
Oh, I thought-
Ruby's. This is one of my second mothers, besides old Carlin. I do have plenty of
Right.
second mothers, but
Actual mother.
yeah. No, Miss Gayla has watched our podcast. She says she enjoys it. Loves when
Let's
she's
go.
here.
Shout out Miss Gayla.
So shout out Miss Gayla. This episode
Love
is
you, Miss
Shout
Gayla.
out.
you get the shout out this week.
When you said her name, what was the name of that other lady that we were talking about? I thought that's who you were
Gail.
talking about at
Miss
first.
Gail.
I was like,
That's-
she's watched both episodes?
So we've got.
I did too.
I know what you mean she didn't watch this one.
No, Miss
She's
Gail
committed.
is an 85-year-old woman who does not watch this podcast.
Oh,
I
okay.
promise you
Well,
she doesn't.
Maybe we can shoot her the link or something. I don't know.
Absolutely.
She's not gonna watch it.
Aw.
She would probably hate this. I'm being honest.
Oh,
with you.
okay,
I'm
well,
being so honest
let's
with
wait to
you. I
shoot.
love her. She's a little traditional.
Okay, well, hey man,
So,
it is what it is,
Leave it
It is
there.
and it ain't what it ain't.
You want me to give
Amen.
shout outs and then we'll wrap it up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey, you know what? Shout out to Hagen Harrison
Shout out
Monroe.
Hagen.
No, I better not do that. Claire
Bow,
says
bow, bow, bow,
I look
bow.
too much like a.
What are you doing?
Just my, you
Don't
know.
do that.
I know.
You're.
So sorry.
It's okay. Oh my gosh. Shout out to Lindsey. Seminaries, bro.
Seminaries.
Seminaries
That's what I'm
very own. Shout out to the Springs.
That's right.
Shout out
Shout out to Pastor West.
P-Dubs.
P Dubs. That's
what I call
incredible.
That's a good one. Yeah.
What do we call James?
PJ.
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 I don't even know if we call him that. I just.
Not to his face.
That's what I just say
Not
in
to his
text
face.
messages.
We promise we don't call you
Just
that.
to shorten it.
Jimmy.
Shout
No,
out
don't call him
to
Jimmy.
shout out to Agape. Shout out to Together. Shout out to Brad Smith Media.
That's right.
Shout out to the shoutouts.
Shout out to the shout outs. Shout out to Jesus.
Shout out to Jesus.
The biggest, the most hype shout out. All the air horns, all the confetti. I'm out.
Yeah, that's a wrap. Make sure to follow or not. I don't care if you follow, you know, or
no,
subscribe. Just-
follow.
Yeah,
Subscribe.
Actually, yeah, you know what?
It's
Lindsay
worth
said.
it.
Yeah, follow, subscribe, keep
Yeah.
up with it. YouTube, Spotify,
Heck yeah.
and that's conference is
Come
coming
to
up.
conference.
28 days
Oh.
away.
Sign up
Yeah,
for
yeah.
conference.
Let's go.
Now, it's worth it.
Yeah,
We're having Chick-fil-A apparently.
yeah, we're having all
That's
kinds of
not why
stuff.
you
She's
should
got to
go,
be here,
that's what I
but
thought
Yeah,
about
don't
first.
miss out.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
wrap.
Yeah.
And we're out.